I guarantee I don't have enough points. But I got where I was buying them through Bob. Last time Jim and I went in together, we had 5 tickets. Not 2 of them were together. And the year before, Susan and I had the first or second row on about the 35-yard line on one side. Boy, it's wonderful. And you can't see for the players, you have to stand up. It'll be interesting. It's interesting to hear a lot of the players coming out. Justin Fields, Trevor, saying that we're safer here in our university playing football than we are going back to our community. I read one on, I was telling Nick this morning, Zamir White. His mom was 14 years old. And he was born with a cleft lip, palate, some intestinal problems, and had a lot of problems. And then they said, "Why do you work so hard?" They say, "Work harder than anybody." Well, where I come from, everybody shooting and killing. And he said, "You don't get out there often." He said, "I don't go back." I'm not sure where he's from, but wow.
Call the board meeting to order. Ask Mr. Davidson if he would lead us in our prayer and pledge.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come before your throne of mercy, Lord, and we seek your guidance and wisdom as we endeavor to conduct the business of the Wayne County Board of Education. Keep us ever mindful of our students, teachers, and administrators. And Father, we hope that the decisions we make will be pleasing to you and will help keep our students, teachers, and administrators safe. We thank you for all your blessings, and we ask for your forgiveness. In Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge
allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our mission is to empower all students to reach their highest level of achievement. Our belief is that every person is worthy of respect. Every person has the right to learn and work in a safe, nurturing environment. Every child learns when actively involved in educational experiences that reflect the uniqueness of each student's abilities. Every child will be encouraged and supported to become a lifelong learner in preparing for a rapidly changing world. Everyone learns best when they are engaged participants in their learning. Literacy is the foundation of education, and family, school, and community are responsible for the growth, development, and the success of its students.
Motion to adopt.
Second. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion to approve the minutes from August the 11th and August the 18th.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We have none. Mr. Harris also apologizes for not being able to make it tonight. Item of business.
Yes, sir. With us tonight, we have Mr. Corey Free and Joanne Roach from the high school, share some information about suicide prevention.
Can you hear me? I'm Ms. Joanne Roach. I'm a crisis counselor at the high school. Let's just take a minute to tell you guys thank you for what you all have done in supporting that role. First, when we implemented at the high school, but also just for the mental health initiatives that we have put in place there at the high school. There's been several different programs that the school system has afforded us to do and afforded for our students, and some things that have been really successful. So I'm going to share some of that with you tonight. We have a PowerPoint that I just want to share with you guys. So this is just some statistics, and I don't know if this mental health or suicide is something that you guys have looked at statistics for, but if you just look at this, in 2017, there were more than 6,200 suicide deaths among adolescents and young adults. This has made this the second leading cause for that age group. That's a big rise from the last information that was put out about 3 or 4 years prior to that. Youth suicidal ideations, attempts, and completions are on the rise for adolescents that have suicidal thoughts or attempts and survive, and for those who survive and those who die by suicide. In 2017, the Youth Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System showed that in the past year, 17.2% of high school students seriously considered attempting, and 7.4% actually made a suicide attempt. As you all are aware, in the last 3 years, Wayne County High School has experienced 4 student deaths by suicide. Last year at Wayne County High School, the counselors there completed a total of 115 Columbia suicide rating skills for students. Those are students who are referred to our office either by peers, by themselves, by family members, by teachers, as being at risk, or maybe they've said something that has made someone worry about their safety, and we complete that rating scale on them. What we do after we complete that rating scale depends on where they grade out. So if there is an immediate risk or danger for the student, we immediately contact their parents and we help their parents facilitate getting them immediate assistance. So of those that were completed, 31 of those students were actually hospitalized for further evaluation and spent some time in a hospital, probably for 3 to 5 days, sometimes 7 days, being further evaluated before they came back to us and were then sent out for services in our county and our community. We've referred probably more than 150 that I can put my hand on, about 150 students to outside counseling last year. That's a lot, but that also means that preventive measures that we're putting in place is working. Those students are utilizing those services, they're coming to the counselors, they're talking to their friends, and their friends are knowing what to do to get them help. So I don't want that number to be alarming as much as I want you guys to know that the services we're putting in place are working for our students. Some things that are important are what works to help dealing with students who have mental health issues or students who are thinking about suicide. The very first thing that's really important for everybody is just knowing the signs, knowing what to look for. So a large part of my job last year and this year, and working with Ms. Free, is getting our students educated, which is the program we want to present to you guys tonight, the signs of suicide, just so that our students know what to look for. Last year I was able to train all of our teachers, most of our teachers went through some training. At each school, we put a crisis response team in place at each school. We trained all of the counselors in the county. So lots of things that we did this year, we really want to focus on training all of our staff and all of our students at the high school and middle school with the suicide, signs of suicide. The second thing, of course, is just protecting them, making it more difficult. So those are some things that we tell parents. When parents come in and their student has made a threat to harm themselves, one of the main things we do is to tell the parent, lock up medications, lock up things they can do to harm themselves, make sure there's not guns, knives, anything in the home. So just that protection factor. And then, of course, allowing them access to mental health resources. So we make sure that we provide those mental health resources to them. We have a list of local providers, and when I say local, it's not just in our county, but we have some providers in Brunswick and Liberty and different places that provide services to our students. And we talk the parent through that, help them know what companies take what insurances and stuff like that, so the families aren't overwhelmed by that process. And then fortunately, our school system has some grant money that we can also utilize for students who, if they don't have insurance, they can't afford to pay, that we can put them under our MTSS program, and as part of that, we can actually help pay for some counseling services.
So our plan in Wayne County for the signs of suicide, and I'm just going to talk to you guys about that part. I think it was really important for Ms. Roach to get up here and share how much we're doing in Wayne County to support our kids in the hall. The reason why I was really interested in purchasing this curriculum for our students is because I've been able to implement it in other schools in a different state where I'm from. And I've been able to see the great things that we've been able to do with this program. So this year, and thank you so much. Our plan in Wayne County is to introduce it at the high school, Arthur Williams Middle School, and Martha Cook Middle School. And so what I'm going to tell you about is basically what is signs of suicide. And it's a specific curriculum that we purchased. It's all virtual right now, which is really cool. I just participated in a professional development about how we're going to be able to roll this out even virtually this year. But it teaches not only students the signs of suicide, it teaches all the staff members. We also have plans to roll this out with our parents in the community. The first thing we're going to do, though, is train our staff. That way, if there are parents in the community that have questions, they'll know how to answer those questions and be able to refer them to the appropriate people. So we're in the process of getting that scheduled at our schools right now, in those 3 schools. It will be taking place during our professional learning time of Tuesdays with teachers. Then we'll be offering those virtual trainings to our parents in the community at various times, so they'll be able to access that, not just during the day, but also in the evening. The really important piece of this curriculum that I think that we haven't been able to focus on as much is training our kids. As we know, our kids sometimes don't talk to their parents about how they're feeling. It's just part of their developmental growing up phase that they're experiencing at this time. A lot of kids, though, will reach out and talk to their peers. And if they're not talking to their peers, they might be putting things on social media. And so this program has different videos and different scenarios that you show the students and then have discussion points. And it all focuses around something that's called act, care, tell. So first of all, you want to act if one of your friends is in dire need or is in crisis. You want to care about them, but ultimately you want to tell a trusting adult. And so it really just trains those kids on how to identify those trusting adults, whether it be in the school system, which we're hoping for, but also outside in the community. A lot of our kids are active in church groups and things
You want
like
to care
that.
about them, but ultimately you want to turn.
Into those trusted adults that they can talk to about those situations. The students, at the end of the basic teaching, we provide a self-screener for depression. The screener is not available during a virtual setting, so we're just going to have to see how that goes as we roll it out throughout the school year. But for our kids in person, it's a very brief screener that asks 5 questions, and it's all about depression. It gives them information, and at the bottom of it, it allows them to identify who their trusting adult is if they rate themselves high. That screener themselves, they don't have to turn that in. That's their own information, and we're trying to teach them to self-reflect and try to figure out where they're at emotionally. They also have a suicide hotline on that page that they fill out. At the end of it, they each complete a student response slip, and it says, "I need to talk to someone now," or "I'm okay, I don't need to talk to anyone." And our plan is to have not just myself and Ms. Roach available at the schools that we're going to be doing these trainings. We also have the other school psychologists and our intern going to be there, and then hopefully other school counselors, just in case we do have a lot of kids that need to talk to somebody right away. We collect all of that and make sure that all of our kids are going to get their needs met. After that, we're working on also doing a pre and a post test to make sure that they're getting the information that they need. So they'll take a quick 4-question thing in the beginning and then a quick 4-question thing at the end. Or think that this should take 1 class period at each of the schools. We're going to be focusing on 8th grade this coming year. And if things go well and things go smoothly, I think we're going to hopefully plan to roll out more in the future. Does anyone have any questions about the signs of suicide? Joanne's going to talk a little bit more about the supports we offer on as normal. Do you have any questions about that at all?
Only thought was, you mentioned the creative thought for me. Our youth pastors in our churches.
Yes.
I'm at First Baptist, and Buddy Duke put a lot on social media on suicide knowledge. Did they participate in this, or is it just school?
I think we would love that. That's what's great about the Signs of Suicide is it's not just school-based, it's community-based. They would like any kind of outside organization to be involved, and I do think that would be a great thing.
And they've been very supportive of us when we've had calls, pastors and counselors in, before, help at the high school. They've always been very supportive from whatever we need, so.
I think that's a great idea.
I'll talk briefly about some of these supports that we offer, but just again, we do have a referral source. So as we go through the signs of suicide, if we see that a student needs more, as school counselors, we can't do therapy with those students. What we do is just some brief counseling. Our focus is to help them cope, help them focus on what's going on at school, what's bothering them, help them as they're getting through their day. And so if it's things that they need more support for, we have referrals that we can complete so that we can get them connected with other sources. Last year, we did implement the Stop It app. You guys, I think, are familiar with that, and it was very successful. We had lots of, myself and Dr. Davis usually are the ones, and Dr. McDaniel, who get those Stop It reports when they come in. And so that is monitored 24 hours a day. So even if one of us doesn't see it, if something comes in that is alarming, or it is something saying that someone's going to harm themselves or someone's in harm's way, we are paying for that 24-hour monitoring service. And so they immediately, if they can't get one of us, they try to call us, and then their second line is to contact our sheriff's department or police department. And they've done that. There's calls that have come in at 2 o'clock in the morning where a student was in crisis, and they contacted and were able to go out and get to parents. So those come in even after school hours. The students do utilize that for reporting self-harm, reporting bullying, that kind of thing. So I'm really glad that we have that. The Mental Health Association, that is just something that Ms. LaFree and I participated in to try to help not just within the school, but also in the community, getting mental health resources and mental health services available to our students even in the community. The Be the One campaign is something that we implemented last year, and it's just something that's very similar to the signs of suicide. It was just very brief, however. This was not a organized go and teach them this and then have counseling available afterwards and that kind of thing. It was just briefly during our buzz block time, where we just kind of blasted information out there. Basically, if you hear your friends say some of these key things, these are things that you can do for them. Ask them what's going on, keep them safe, be there, make sure you follow up. So that's just an initial thing that we did last year. Also, trying to just teach them about being healthy, being kind, being there for each other. So those things are really important for our kids. And again, Ms. LaFree mentioned that kids are going to go to kids before they come to adults. So making sure that our kids are aware. We've already had a situation this year where thankfully a student turned to friends. And we were able to, get him some help and get to his parents. And so those things are really important that our kids know. Faculty training, crisis teams we talked about, and then I have been trained and certified as a critical incident stress debriefing counselor. Basically, that just means if we were to have a traumatic event happen in Wayne County, that I have that training to help us know what to do and how to deal with that. One thing that we have done through the Mental Health Association that our students helped us with is some public service videos. And it's very brief, but I thought it was really important for you guys to see a video that some students at the high school actually put together. And we have about 5 of them. This is just one. I think videos are very emotional when you watch them and you know these kids walking the halls. But our kids, this is what they need. And so we do have some of these that we'll also be utilizing throughout our, not just at the school, but the churches and different places will be using these as public service.
One of the questions I did want to ask and pose before y'all is, the signs of suicide have 2 different types of permission slips. One is an active permission slip where parents absolutely have to sign if they want their student to have this training. The other one is what we call passive permission slip. And those are for parents, they'll get the permission slip, and now with Kimbo, I really feel like we can reach a lot of our parents. And for those that do not want this training for their students, they would then send in that piece of paper. And I don't need your answers right now, but I do think that it's a question that we kind of talked about last year, and one that I still continue to kind of go back and forth with. Because I really, what my fear is those kids that don't bring back the permission slip that want to be a part of it, and not be able to be.
But this can you get back to definitely guys on, whether it's gonna be more opt-out type thing or they have to actually have, that active.
Any other questions?
That's good. Is it age 16 if do it to make their own choice on that?
I'm not familiar with our school system here. I mean, in other places that I've worked, yes, that is true. I just don't want, my biggest fear is that our kids are going to get the training.
We do opt out on a lot of other things. For instance, sex ed, they do opt out. They, the only way you need reason you need a parent signature is the parent wants to opt out of the sex ed. So I don't see if that shouldn't be any different, should it?
I don't think so. I would need to look at it a little closer, but I think that would probably be the way to go.
That's right, and like I said, we don't need an answer today, but it is one thing that we've been pondering.
Since we left school in March of this year, have we dealt with any referrals?
I know I have, I don't know about at other schools, but, yes, so we have, either through churches, like the youth pastors will reach out to me, sometimes it's through friends, stop at that, because we're still active, even though we're out of school. We didn't get as many referrals through that as what we usually, what we do from the in school, but we did get some. But yes, so we have referrals even while we've been out of school.
So you expect that we're going to probably see a slight increase since we came back?
Yes, I do. I do expect it.
I'd like to thank you all for taking initiative in implementing this and taking it very serious with our kids and providing a service that is very much needed to our community. We really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I would say these ladies in their roles, you know, the school psychologist and a lead counselor, we're fortunate enough to have the quality of person in that role. They're very trained and experts in student behavior and all the resources. So we couldn't have two better ladies kind of lead this. We're trying to build this capacity within all of our schools. Again, we start kind of at the high school, trickling down to middle school, but we want to build this capacity throughout all of our schools and our community. Because that's more people that understand what we're trying to do with their children. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Softball boosters.
Yes, I met with the, me and several folks met with the softball boosters a few weeks ago, and they're trying to get, you know, their ducks in a row with projects. Of course, they're like every program, they want to improve what we're doing for our students. So, you know, they're coming, of course, tonight with the list and plan of some projects. I don't know who's going to come up, coach, or, you know, something I'm you know, very interested in looking at is they've kind of crossed over with baseball and some potential projects down the road. We know we're not doing all these projects you know, tomorrow, but I commend them for the efforts they put forth in planning down the road, what we can accomplish, you know, now, in the next year, next 3 to 5 years, that sort of thing. But I'll turn it over to you guys. Sure can.
This is our, laid out kind of what we have. Dr. Rickson, when the field was actually built?
It's gonna be 96, 96, 97.
That's what I have, is the fall of 96 or 97, because we play on the baseball field.
Right.
Well,
Well, and the reason I recall is, you know, the whole reason we sodded the field about that time, and that was when I was taking over the head baseball coach. I don't remember if it was the year before I took over as the head baseball coach. 96, 97.
I have, my name is Samantha Jacobs Tyre. Some of you know me as Jacob, some of you know me as Tyre. But in any event, I have a daughter on the varsity softball team. I will note that the Barber softball field was constructed, we understand, between 1996 and 1997. The field has got a great deal of age. There have been very little changes to that field in that time. You will note the number of the other fields, sorry, a number of the other fields have had significant changes, you know, improved locker rooms, improved dugouts, improved concession stands, adding announcer boxes, just different things. We have the same dugouts, the same locker room, the same seating, we understand, the same field. Back at some point when we went from slow pitch to fast pitch, they did move the field in because the fast pitch fields are shorter than the slow pitch fields were. However, we now have reached a point where we really need to make some improvements. And we did, there was a mention that we went to baseball and, or baseball came to us, I guess. We desperately need a backstop. Our backstop has been in major disrepair for some time. If anybody's provided an opportunity to go to the fields, you will see
that like foul balls and things like that will not only enter the guest dugout, but the visitor dugout. The visitor dugout is very, very small. There's nowhere for them to go. When our plans would be that in the next 12 months, we would like the board to approve moving that field back. If we move the field back, and some of the other things that you need to know, our second base does not line up with our pitcher's mound, does not line up with first base. So we've got some serious issues on this field. The lighting is not, is not what it needs to be in order for us to host tournaments here. But I will note that is on the schedule from what I understand. So that's not something before the board today. I think primarily we come before the board today. I will also note that in our locker room, there's not enough lockers for the girls. They currently have, I think, 32 girls. There's 32 girls. There's not sufficient locker space for those girls. There is a coach's office, and then there's a locker room. The locker room is very, very small. There's just not sufficient space there. Right now we're in a time where people need more space. There's no means to do that. I will say that at the softball fields, we just had a game the other day. We have Brunswick High School here. The game got rained. We had a lightning delay. There was nowhere for the other team to go. Because of COVID, they could not come in our locker room because we didn't have sufficient space to separate from them. So they had to either load up on their bus or stay in that small dugout, and the small dugout's not conducive either. So there are some safety concerns with not having the appropriate backstop. There's also some concerns with, the locker room and other things. However, we have put a plan in place that we would like to move forward with. I have attached here too, and I have a short video, but I'll get to that in just a moment. So, as far as the backstop and the field renovation, the backstop would be a joint project. We have priced this out, and when we price this out individually, it's significantly more cost. You save over $4,000. Mr. Boykin is here and present with me. He's done a lot of work on getting this information, but you would save over $4,000 in allowing the baseball team to do theirs at the same time that the softball team does theirs. We have also confirmed that we understand lighting is supposed to happen in the next 12 months, so we need to move that field back. We're going to move the field back. It increases fan seating, and I've outlined it here. I'm not going to read through everything. I put everything in here as to our position, but it would alleviate a lot of problems if we're able to push that field back, and we definitely need to do it within the next 12 months when there's lighting, when we tend to have the lighting. If we get the backstop now, if we could approve the backstop now, I have the Booster Club on board at this point that they would be in a position that they could contribute 10% of the cost of that backstop. I have not really discussed that with Mr. Boykin, but it's my understanding that baseball would also have their 10%, so we would be able to account for some of that cost. I have attached an estimate that's on there. It's from Burbank, and unfortunately, I know that the board likes to work with estimates from various providers, but backstops are a very unique item, and so there's not an opportunity for us to get a lot of providers to do that. The fencing is simply not safe. I will note, and Mr. Boykin probably talked about this, but we've had some safety issues where there was a player, I believe, that ran into the backstop of the baseball field. That could have been very, very significant. Those are very real dangers to players on that field when you don't have this backstop that we're proposing would go all the way to the ground with a netting. It would be safe and secure for both softball and baseball, and again, you could save over $4,000 in doing the project together. There is a video. I've got photographs on the back of your packets. I've also got bigger versions of that, but I guess we'll look at the video because I can attach that to your packet. Yeah. You will know this is a very large project. We know that, and that's the reason that we're willing to put forth some of the money to it. We would like to see the backstop installed as soon as possible. That's something that we're before the board today asking if they would help us in installing that backstop. We also have certain items and that's in your packet, that are of no cost, but we need the board to approve it. These are modifications to board property, So as a result of that, we need to present it to the board, and we need the board to say it's okay. We have an entity that will relocate the announcer box, which would create some better visibility for our fans. They agree to do that when the time is right at no cost. We are asking the board to allow us to do that. We have been dealing with the work, the school maintenance department, so we would do that in conjunction with them. In other words, we wouldn't just do something like that. We would work with the people that operate and regularly maintain these fields. In addition, as far as moving the field back, we would like the board to consider having that done within the next 12 months. That's a project that we understand the county maintenance department has also looked into. The only cost thereof are expected to be the fencing that's on the back, because our understanding from the maintenance department is that's something that they would have suitable individuals to do. However, if the board so chooses that they want us to entertain trying to get donations, we're happy to look into that as well. We have quite a few people that are willing to do this work and help us with it. You'll see that as far as in my section that says fan viewing, at the softball complex right now, if you go there, and I know that we've gotten a lot of negative feedback for the fact that we've not socially distanced there, it's nearly impossible. We are not like the football field. We are not like the baseball field. There is nowhere to go. So we have 2 picnic tables and 2 sets of bleachers that are like the recreation bleachers. So the top bleacher probably sits about shoulder level to me. Unfortunately, if you blocked off every 6 feet, one set of bleachers would sit like 3 people. It's just not ideal, whereas if we could remove that, we can have larger areas and even grandstands. They've got these same grandstands at Bill Morris. They also have them at the New Bend Park. We'd love to have something like baseball, but we also know that's not ideal. But we would like to look into and at least have the board say that this is a project they would be willing to consider, and let us get some costs on some grandstands and trying to get those installed there. As far as immediately, we have a hitting facility, and I'm sure the board may recall that last year there was a donation and they installed this hitting facility. It is a great facility. Like, I want to first and foremost say that. However, the roof of the facility is really too tall for us to use. So unfortunately, when it's anything more than a mist, the girls can't use the facility. There's no power run to the facility. There's no lights. So when it gets dark, we can't use the facility. We have a donation of the lighting. And we have spoken with maintenance about them installing lighting, installing power and lighting and electrical outlets there. Our understanding is that's something that would be of no cost to the board, and we are before the board today asking you to allow us to do that. The other thing is that we have gotten a cost on bringing the sides of the building down, so we would basically, I don't know if I'm saying it right, but we would is it 10? The siding. But they would put siding down by 8 feet, so that way when the winds and the rain come in, they wouldn't come in at an angle. It would still provide some ventilation. We have some individuals willing to donate fans. Our understanding in discussing with baseball is that their hitting facility is very, very hot. So they suggested that we do something a little bit different. We have priced out those materials, and those materials would be between $3,000 and $4,000. And our booster club does have the funds to pay for that. We just need the board to tell us that it's okay for us to move forward with the installation of lights, installation of electricity, and going ahead and partially closing in that facility and getting some fans. And then in the future, I have a section in the future just because there are some other things that we've discussed. I put them in there, but we're not before it. Yes, we would love it if the board had ample money to do everything they want. We want it, but primarily we're here today to say, A, can we make improvements to the hitting facility? Again, that would be no cost. We're not proposing any cost to the board in that regard. We would work in conjunction with maintenance. You know, that's very important to make sure that Mr. Simmons, and he has met with us too, like, so he's aware of the things we're trying to accomplish. So we would like to make the changes to the hitting facility and add electricity there. We would also like the board to consider at this time approving the backstop for baseball and softball. I cannot tell you enough, like, there's so many problems right now without having this backstop. And we have also confirmed that if we install the backstop now, but we cannot move the field until 12 months from now or 10 months from now, we can relocate that backstop. So that would not be a wasted expense. Like, we could put it in place now, and then at the time that the school board prepares repairs and move the field, we could at that time move the backstop with it. And the company has confirmed that. Mr. Boykin, do you have anything else that you would like to add in regards to the backstop? Because he's much more knowledgeable than I.
Yes, ma'am, this is a matter from Ms. Covington, to piggyback on what she says. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this from softball. Most of these improvements you've seen in baseball and football, let's make sure we're very clear. That's more than 90% of that's been boosters driven. So let's make sure we're very, I didn't want to give a false impression that other facilities have gotten something that haven't. That's really been by parents and boosters and a couple of companies quite blunt about it. So the things they're talking about today is basically safety and liability issues. And what this all started was about a year and a half ago with the hurricane that came through our backstop of the baseball. We had a wind event. There was two main support poles. One of them was bent pretty bad. I couldn't straighten them back out. In doing so, it stretched the net, and now you've got a tremendous amount of sag in that net. The top part of it, you've got serious molting issues. And more importantly, I still pulled up the old drawings from the stadium from back in the 90s. Pat Perry actually designed that. My father actually built that stadium. They were designed to support the cables and the stays that go back up forward, supporting the magnet. And again, that was the home run club. I believe where you tested was over at that time. That's been a number of years ago. They did a great job putting that up. What this is something now is a new system. And again, this is out of food quote that we did. This was the most economical quote we could find. We definitely want to help raise money for this, just like we did with the fence last year. The boosters, that fence. You just saw the fence was leaning in the outfield. There were shards everywhere. Mr. Ray and Mr. Joe can appreciate from the safety standpoint. It was a serious liability part. It's amazing to me somebody hasn't lost an eye or got stabbed in the chest making a play against the fence. It's a very serious liability. We made some changes just with the hitting facility to get some of that rollaway fence off the field. Again, just for simple liability reasons and stuff that we've done to help. This is a very quick process with the $5,000 discount plus both boosters moving in. You're basically looking at about a $30-something thousand capital outlay. And basically, this is not a beautification enhancement. It is a safety and liability issue, especially for us. And also, I'll say this to softball. I mean, I'd be remiss about saying I've been approaching this for the last 14 or 15 years by past coaches and boosters that said, looking at softball. We'll help any way we can. We've even offered to donate frames to pull that canopy back. Not to be very disrespectful, because you guys have got a lot more to do with right now. COVID-19, a lot of issues going on. Time is not perfect. But honestly, folks, it's probably the worst viewing experience in the state of Georgia. You really want to get down to it. You can't see a game. And that's why I'm in support of those guys getting something to improve that. I would love personally, just as a taxpayer and as a fan, to get these folks who park in the outfield to get them back up in the grandstands. That's what some of this is about. Because you guys know it's not a matter of if, it's when. A small child is going to guard out, and some teenage driver is going to go across that dirt road. And you know what the outcome of that would be. And that's a lot more expensive than what we're talking about right now. I don't see that happen. So, and again, there's a lot of long-term planning you guys are going to be talking about. And I'm hoping, praying for the next round of squash, we hope. So that's future, that's for you guys to talk about outside of this. But this is just an immediate fix. It would greatly enhance the viewing you can actually see versus a chain link fence that doesn't even capture 20% of the foul ball. So there's some things we would love to come back and talk to you guys in the work session. We're going to run some ideas. Cost saving. We're talking about this. Again, this is the most economical quote. It's about a 2-week lead time to get it here. We're probably talking 2 or 3 days for the installation. I already did the math and laid it out. We approached our friends at the softball because we've been working very hard with these guys last year and have built great synergy. And these guys were kind enough, we came up with ideas. They help us in the spring working concession stand. We're helping them in the fall. I don't know if we're doing that this year with COVID-19, but it was a great way to kind of help you out with this. Dr. Benson, we know exactly what I'm talking about. Trying to find volunteers. Nobody can appreciate that when I'm actually trying to find volunteers. But it's, we're trying to work together. How can we save money? How can we help each other out? But we really appreciate it. For us, our season's coming up. It's something we need done by December if we can. We're having a hard time keeping knocking on doors. We're asking a lot of the folks, and again, everything we're doing, this is not beautification or something, a beautiful new painting or something. This is just safety and liability issues, and that's the reason why we're here. We were talking about new uniforms, new logo on the field, we wouldn't be here for that one. It's something, and again, we've laid out the dimensions. Theirs is about the same size, believe it or not. So both fields almost equal to baseball, $2,000 more just because of square footage. But it's a very simplistic. You can go to about any facility around here, surrounding counties, and they'll basically have the same type of system. And again, that's out of the 3 quotes we got, that was the most economical. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I want to start this conversation off. I appreciate Ms. Jacobs and Mr. Boykin for coming to share some of this information. However, I am a little disappointed. I know there's some things that we need to upgrade, some things that we need to do as a school system to get our facilities up to par. But I'm disappointed when I see this amount of needs that are required. And this is the first that we've heard about it as a board, especially when we have coaches and an athletic director, principal, and superintendent that is supposed to keep the school board informed of these type of major needs. And I haven't spoken to the superintendent in detail. I've spoken to a few community members about it and made me aware of some things. And I was thinking that we were going to be able to do some things in maintenance and operations. Certainly can support that, but when we're moving into a capital project, these are things that have to be bid out. And these are things that we have to spend a little time to research on. We have to work with our contractors and our facilities people to do these capital projects. And so I think we need to look at, what things we can do with some maintenance and operations, but we also need to come up with a plan for how we're going to address these major issues that we've just told about. I mean, this is the first time I've ever heard of a bid for $43,000 quote of this amount of money.
You want to respond?
No, I'm leaning to the superintendent now for his recommendation or his, what we need, how we're going to move forward on trying to address these safety issues, but also understanding that we still got to stick within our guidelines of capital projects and how we run those. We certainly have a large amount of capital projects that are out here on the table now that haven't been started, and due to COVID or whatever reasons they haven't been started, but we've been talking about these things and they haven't started anything, and now we're adding another capital project on that the board didn't have any clue about. So what direction are we going in to try to figure out how we're going to address these capital needs?
And I got a question before he goes on. So, I want to know, and I guess it's what's the durability of this backstop and the mesh and the longevity of it?
It's a great question. I would imagine at least 15 years or longer. And it's meant that it's a very affordable system too. If you come into a windfall 10, 15 years from now, the school system, you decide to build it, you can easily move that to a different location as well. So it's not only transportable, but it's at least 15 to 20 years, I would imagine. I would verify that for you, make sure I'm telling you accurate. Just based on past experience and comments, I would say at least 15 years, I would imagine.
Yeah, because my dream is to have a nice complex over there with everything.
That's right. Cut down your maintenance costs.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And I would note that, we understand that right now the SPOS funds that are there have been a lot. So even though this seems like a large expense, like realistically, based on softball, these are complexes. But we're not before you saying, hey, do this. We are basically trying to fix it. And I must commend your maintenance department because they have done everything to try to make this as good as it can be. But without some of these improvements, like for instance, right now, they have there's no netting. So like if you go to the rec field or if you go to any other field anywhere, you have the high school, the baseball has it, softball doesn't. So there's a gap, about a 5-foot gap. But if a foul ball comes up, it can hit a fan, it can hit a child, there's nothing there. I will also note that there are tons of foul balls. We only played one inning, and I think there's a foul ball to enter the guest dugout. You know what I mean? We got rained out after the first inning, but still there was an opportunity where these little girls were like running, trying to get away. I will say that we notified the maintenance department and they immediately installed like netting. So there is some netting there to protect right now. These are things that I think people just kind of accepted, thought that's what it should have been, and like just kind of were thankful for having a place to play. But it's now, and again, we have an active boosters. And our boosters, we're prepared. If the board would vote on, improvements to that heating facility, we would work with maintenance. We would use, like that would cost nothing. You know what I mean? We're not asking for any money. We're asking for the authority to improve that hitting facility. And then as far as the backstop, we are asking for money, and then you'll see the other items that are on there.
Mr. Jackson, when you mentioned you need it done immediately, you're talking about during this season, I think?
We think, well, they actually said that it would be a 3-day project, I think. So it is something that we could do now. But if it doesn't work with with their schedule, because at this point, if we really need to get something, we would like it done as soon as possible just because of all the safety concerns. And allowing us, that's another thing. If we were able to spread out, we could spread out the seating. We immediately could address some of those concerns about the social distancing. I mean, I've heard a lot of feedback about people saying, you guys don't say, there's nowhere to go. There's only a short, our covered area is probably 15 feet, and it's in a little section. So there's really nowhere to go. But if this were installed, people could stand all over, and they could separate, they could socially distance, they could still enjoy the sport, and they could be safe in doing so.
So if you're asking what funds these projects can come out of, it's not real complicated. We got two. We have a budget that we set every year. We start that process in about November, middle of November. We start the budget discussions, and big ticket items are gathered from principals at each school. High school, middle school obviously have athletics. They have a big ticket item that they need to include in the budget for discussion. Then it's included. Okay. And then I'll bring it for you. Y'all discuss it. You make your decisions, and it's included in our address item maintenance and operation. That's what that's for, to a degree. We don't want to nickel and dime a booster club. This is a smaller booster club for softball than football and some of the others. So we need to be mindful of that. They just can't participate as much and do some of the things that some of the other booster clubs do. So.
And what I'm getting at, Dr. Brinson, is I understand we have a priority list and we had major things on the discussion. But this is the first time that these items were brought to our attention as a board, is what I'm saying tonight. These are big ticket items, and this is the first time that anybody's ever discussed them with us. I'm sure they've had conversations, but we redid the gym floor for basketball. Nobody talked about these major projects. And I wasn't on the board whenever the previous board assisted Home Run Club with some of the baseball, because I was here for the meeting that night to support some of the upgrades and changes to that. And the Home Run Club came up with a percentage, and the board paid the rest. I was here for that, and I heard the vote, and I know I win. But those were discussions that they had all worked and came up with a plan for it. We haven't discussed this to come up with a plan.
I think basically what Nick is trying to say, or he has said, is that with other projects, we've had an opportunity to go home, marinate on it, evaluate things, and try to make a seriously informative decision about how we're going to spend taxpayers' money. Well, in this particular situation, and dealing with the amount, we haven't had that opportunity, and it's been brought to us to just say, okay, boom, this is a good idea. Let's go with it. Let's go forward with it. But it's a big decision. I'm not denying that it doesn't need to be, something needs to be done. I used to coach the catchers, out there. So I know what it's like. I know that you can't see a foul ball in left field whether Susie catches it or not. So so I'm aware of all those things. Yeah.
You can't see a fair ball in the field.
Yeah.
You honestly can't. And I understand it's presented to the board that the board needs more information from us. We're happy to get that, and we can come back and designate us to come back.
Mm-hmm.
We would ask before the board today if they would allow us to make the improvements that are not costing the board any money.
Yeah.
Those items that can be done for maintenance, as long as they're improvements and they're done with the maintenance department. I understand you wouldn't want us just going out there and doing anything that we haven't run by Mr. Simmons or Miguel, who constantly works the field.
Right.
But if we work with Robert, anyway, if we work with him, collaboratively with him, we would ask the board to approve those items that we can do without cost to the board. Because those are things I can do right now.
Mm-hmm.
We can go ahead and get that hitting facility and partially enclosed. We can go ahead and put lights out there, we can put power out there. Those girls can be hitting at 8 o'clock at night. I mean, like today, our heat index was above 92. So they had to move our practice until 6 to 8. So our practice has to be a little bit later. Well, once the time, you know what I mean? Once we get a time change or anything like that, or even by 8 o'clock, 8:30, it's going to be dark. So if our heat, unfortunately, softball falls at the end of summer. So we're going to have this problem with the heat index and we can't practice in certain conditions. So we may need to focus them later. During the summer, we were out there till 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And I mean, a lot of times these girls had to keep things on field instead of in the hitting facility, even though it was nice weather, and that's because there's no lights.
And Ms. Jacobs, I'm gonna say this, I'm a booster supporter, and booster supporter money, for me, my stance on that is that it's supposed to be used for kids. I don't think it's necessarily fair for us as a board and a maintenance department to make the booster club pay for things that need to be upgraded to our facility. I think that's our responsibility. And I know there are some immediate needs that we're gonna address and do tonight through our maintenance department to save the booster club from having to spend all their money, because that money is needed for the children. That's what we raise it for, and we worked and served these children for a long time. But there are also things that we are going to have to look at that are going to be capital projects. And one of the things that we've stressed since we've been aboard is that we want our coaches and our athletic department to work together to form the plans on the needs and bring them to the board through the superintendent, so that we can address them and that we can take care of our facilities, because for a long time, we have been depending on booster clubs to do a lot of things that they shouldn't be doing. And we've tried to correct that, and we want to correct it. I appreciate you coming tonight, and I'm not upset at you. I'm upset at the process of not knowing about these things that are needs that should have been communicated through the chain that we have established to get these things accomplished. Because this is embarrassing for me as a board member to hear all these things, and we have all these procedures in place that these things should come through us so that we can address the needs to provide safe and secure facilities for our children. That's the disappointment.
Well, I like to make a motion that we table the portion on the backstop, till we get the further information, but we approve their request to make improvements on the facility as needed, that the Booster Club wanted to do themselves.
That's the hitting facility.
That's the hitting facility, exactly, the hitting facility. And if we want to help them out any way that we can, then,
To help them out. I don't want the Booster Club to spend all their money to do that.
There'll be a lot of work that the maintenance department will be able to do. Is that what you all are saying? To help out with that?
Our understanding from the maintenance department is a lot of this work can be done through them. That they anticipated that they can help us with a lot of this project. Like, for instance, moving that field back and installation of new fence. My understanding was that's something that the maintenance department felt like, obviously that's something they have to have approval for, but that's something they felt like they really could assist in us doing. We also, and I understand that these items, look, there are minimal costs, like that $3,000 to $4,000 for materials. Our booster club is prepared to pay that now, just so that we can get a heating facility where the girls can use it. We had the lights donated, and that installation, when we confirmed with the maintenance department, they can get those installed. They can get power run there, they can get the box put there. My understanding is that they're prepared, they're ready and able to do that. And again, just because we understand this, we're asking a lot of you tonight. So as a result of that, but we are prepared to pay for those improvements to that facility. I will also say that we had discussed moving the announcer box to a location that didn't obstruct vision, but also was maybe more suitable for the announcer to see. And we have an individual that's willing to voluntarily move that item and relocate it. So those are some things that we would like to look into doing while you all contemplate the backstop.
Could we donate some money, since it's such a small amount for the lights?
No, I think that's something he said that can be worked through maintenance and operations.
No, I was just talking about materials. They were saying it was like, what'd you say, about $3,000, $3,500?
$3,000 and $4,000 for materials to partially enclose that heating facility.
Mr. Ellis, the reason that we're coming to you now is because we were under the impression that the lights would be fixed, that they're not up to safety code, they would be covered. We want to be able to move that field before that happens. So we did not mean to blindside anyone. We simply want to make sure that our fields
Because moving the field moves home plate, which then of course makes left and right
Mhm.
more visible. We have some original feet out there because the field was built for a slow pitch field, which makes it at least 300.
Mhm.
So that would give us more room. And that was the only reason that we're coming now, and the opportunity to get baseball before it starts. I'm a parent of both sports. I have a kid who plays baseball, a kid who plays softball. You know that softball's near and dear to me, so is baseball. But that is why we're here now. It has nothing to do with other than we're trying to make sure that when it gets done, it doesn't get done without our input. Our coaches have been very involved. Some of that has to do with, you didn't know, because we've had a coaching change. This is her second year, she's just getting her feet wet. She's been at every meeting, she's been very involved. So I didn't want you to think that we're trying to blindside you.
Dr. Brinson discussed some of the field changes once we were in the process of the James E. Bacon and getting rid of the board office. We talked about some of that being included in that. I was aware of the facility. When I got a call from the community, I was told about the facility. But moving the field and the other issue with the backstop were not told me. The only thing that I was told was that we wanted some upgrades to the facility for the board field. And I thought, in my mind, that's simple and easy. Maintenance and operations can help that. Those guys do an awesome job in this district. But the field discussion of moving the fields and gates, we've already discussed that as far as what we want to do when we do the James E. Bacon modernization. That's why we're getting rid of that whole board office to be able to move some of that stuff around and do some things out there.
I think that's not, it's moving the field up, moving home plate up, cuts down some of that cost, because if you move home plate up, it will make those two dugouts safer. Because right now, they're in the line of third base and first base. Now, of course, we put mesh there, they're still there, they're crowded. You put it, and our teams are bigger. If 15 girls in that either side, it's crowded. But you move those bases, you move that up. You move those fences out, and you've got more room. So I think if you're moving the field, it's actually more cost effective. Because in that, all the cost is coming is moving that back fence back to lane we already have. And backing it up to those lights. That was the reason that we're coming down, is the lights. The lights spurred and of course we wanted to backstop because ours actually curves up at the bottom. Foul balls get stopped there, which makes it a dead ball.
Thank you, Coach. Coach Daniels has a motion for upgrading the heating facility, and what else did you want to add on that motion?
I was asking whether or not we could donate some funds towards that, towards the materials.
I think we can allocate that out of maintenance and operations.
Sure, yeah, I mean, that's.
That,
So-
I mean,
So we need to take care of the
yeah.
whole thing with the facility. I need to be clear on what we're doing.
What do y'all?
At $4,000?
There'll be some other costs too. with the lighting.
Yeah,
I think
that is the
Doing
light,
fans,
that's
or
what she's
doing
telling me,
fans,
the
and
lighting and
fans
everything, and
as well. I mean,
and maintenance would do everything. Well, I make a motion that we donate, to the softball, program $4,000 to assist with the, heating facility, improvements,
come out of maintenance.
come out of maintenance operations.
Second,
Move to second. Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, I'd like to see Dr. Brinson with all his free time. Go out there and meet with some softball people and come back with us some numbers on what we can do. And I don't want any of y'all to think we're opposed. You're right, we need to update that facility. And we've already discussed lights, so we need to try to bundle it all together, but I think what we're saying is we just want a little time to see what we can do and come back with a hard number, and we'll try to work with you. Y'all done a good job on it.
They need to fix this, turning up, they need to fix that.
I want to thank you guys for coming before us tonight. I understand the work and the effort you put into this. I understand your intentions, and they're the best of intentions. I think, and I don't want to put words in Nick's mouth, but for years, this is the way we've done business. People come to us and we fly by the seat of the pants and we make a decision. I think what Nick is saying, maybe we need to go through the proper channels with our athletic director and him to the principal. And I think what we're looking for is a paradigm shift on how we do these types of things. However, again, I understand all the effort you put into it, and I thank you. And be honest with you, all of our athletic programs would suffer without folks like you that are willing to step up and make a difference in our community. And as Joe said, we're not saying no, we're just saying let's think about it. Again, so thank you for taking the time to put that together.
Thank you for your time.
All right, Mr. McGee, I may have some information you want to share with us about the upcoming plan, really season overall.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time, just again, doing what you did. You are sitting in some of the hottest seats here in Wayne County, and I do not envy you. But I'm going to give you a little background on what we've been doing so far. Right now, I will say with the whole entire COVID situation, it really decimated our numbers. And so I know everybody loves numbers, so I'm giving some. Right now, we're sitting at, this just for the marching band purposes, we've been able to get 24 freshmen, we retained 24 sophomores, 18 juniors, and 18 seniors, leaving us at 100 and about right at 110 for the band. Right now, we're missing 25 freshmen due to online learning or just couldn't get, when we stopped having school in March, that really cut into our opportunity to really go and recruit those students for the Martha Puckett. We're missing 15 sophomores, 10 juniors, and 5 seniors. Overall, it's about 55. Right now, Martha Puckett is missing 40 students out of their band program due to COVID stuff. Whatnot. That's stuff we can't help. You know, everybody's about safety. Arthur Williams is missing 44, and we're missing a total of 55 at the high school. So my numbers have gone down. We were originally going to be marching 165 students this year. We're at 110. These are the students we've started coming back. Parents said, hey, you know, I'm going to allow my kids to come through. We have followed every GSHA guideline set possible and even maximized it. We did, of course, the taking the temperatures as soon as we found out about it. The Booster Club stepped up to the plate. They bought 6 thermometers for us to use on a daily basis. Sent out hundreds of Kindle messages to the point where some parents were like, I cut my message receiver off because we've been getting so many. I'm like, no, we don't do that. But we've been sending out information about making sure they bring hand sanitizers, make sure they wear masks, make sure that they're staying a distance apart. If you were at the game Friday, you saw that we were back in the regional stand setting. And the night before that, I went and I marked up every single student so that if you look in that stand, they were all socially distanced apart. And so that's the great thing about having home field advantage. And so we did make some adjustments so that way we can incorporate the student cast for the next home game for our student body. And other things too that we're here. I am also the District 8 chairman for all of the band directors in the Southeast from Valdosta up to I-16 all the way over to 95 in Camden County. There's 13 districts in the state of Georgia, and I'm sitting as one of the district chairs for that. So I'm a huge advocate. I get to hear what the state is doing for the music educators at GMEA, the Music Educators Association. And so I did a little reconnaissance. So I called almost 52 different band directors around the state to see what's going on. Right now, every single school system is doing almost something different. For the bands that are traveling this year, Statesboro, Glenn County, Valdosta, Effingham, Liberty County, Austin County school systems, Burke, Rockville, Camden. So they're all doing what we call almost like the college SEC game where they play all the home games and then not do the away games. Now, there's a lot of variables, and you know me, and I hope you know me well enough to know that anything I'm going to do is for the students. And everything I do for the students is for them, regardless of what's going on in my life. I'm going to put the kids first, safety and safety on. So there's a lot of variables that I can't control, and I'm also a slight control freak, but I can't control things outside. We can control home field. Even at the game Friday, we took temperatures of the students who showed up. I said, you're going to check in with Mr. Smith. Parents dropped them off. We took temperatures, and I had a whole notebook full of just everything. So we know if the student is sick, if they're upset, or whatever the case may be, we call the parents, come pick them up, send them home. That way, we can keep everyone safe. My recommendation for us is to not travel the away game. Sorry, it's the away games. Here's the things we got to think about. We got to think about how are we going to feed our students if they're not selling concession stands. Are those teams going to even allow away bands to show up if they're social distancing, like the GSHA rules say and CDC guidelines follow? Are we doing our best as students if we're going to ride and take different buses? I know right now our students are going to school on buses, wearing masks. With my man kids, I told them all the time, if I'm wearing it, you're wearing it. I know it's hot, I know it's stuff, but we got to think about safety first. And of course, kids are going to complain, they're going to do it, but for the most part, they're going to do what you ask, especially if you're in leadership and you're following after your role. So going through food-wise, I'm not really, at this point, I don't know how I can feed students on away games. Is there concession stands? Are they going to give us a little smidget stands? If you remember when we played against Long County, they had us out in the end zone, not the end zone, they had us in the field because their stands couldn't be hold the band. And that was my first year here when we played against Long County, and they had folding chairs for us. And so I personally have no recollection of what other programs, athletic programs are going to do, what are their rules, are they going to charge and say, here, you can have this many. And so there's so many variables that I can't control. And when it comes to parents, I know that I limited the parent contact with the students at our band camp this year, because I said, I don't want any student to show up with, I can't control outside forces, but I can control what goes on there. Parents, I only had four parents that was taking the temperature and writing it down. So we needed help on that. So they took the temperature, wrote it down. They had to wear the mask. They took their temperature as well. They took all the band directors' temperature. So that way we can stay in accordance with the guidelines that we set. I'm one of those, if I'm going to say something, I'm going to follow it to the T. Until someone changes it and say, hey, don't do this anymore, do something else. I'll say, okay, here's the rules, guys. Here's a new guideline. But when it comes to that, even food and water, my students, I know at the high school and around the school, we shut off water lines. So my kids know to drink water. They have water buckets, and some of you may have students who are in the program, no kids who are in it. I said 32 gallon, well not gallon, but the 32 ounce, big jugs, bring them. You have to bring their own to the game too, because again, with the CDC safety guidelines and everything, me personally, I just want to be in concordance with it. I don't want to rush, but that's my recommendation. There again, unknown. There's so many unknown factors that I can't possibly plan for everything. And I don't want to be the person that says, hey, yeah, we're going to do this. All of a sudden, something gets shut down, and there's students in the program. I honestly don't want to bear the weight of that guilt to do it. But for the most part, we had parents, and I'm going to talk about the parents that we had for that. And this is Mr. Farrell, who's our band Mr. President.
I think they all know me. Anyhow, one of the things we did during band camp, we had 4 parents each day. Those parents had to have their child at camp that day. We alternated group A, group B, different days. And if your child was not in band camp that day, you as a parent were not invited in any way, shape, or fashion to just come and stand around. We tried to do everything possible to limit the exposure for our kids from any outside influences whatsoever. Along with that, and in accordance with everything that Mr. McGee's come up with, we've also had to limit the number of parent helpers. If you remember last year, we had a really fun show. The Queen show was great, but it required a lot of help on the field. We don't have that this year because of all the guidelines that everybody's trying to work around. We don't know what we can actually have on different fields. Some have said, I think 6 was a number I heard at some point in time, either 8, I can't remember. And I didn't know I was talking until I got by a table. So we're trying to work around everything that we can do as a booster club to limit the exposure for our kids to anybody outside of that. When we go like Friday night, we didn't want our kids out mingling with folks. We try to keep the parents from mingling with the students. It's just what we're trying to do. Whether it's right, wrong, or different, it's all we know to do based on the guidelines that you see today. And those guidelines may change tomorrow, just like they were probably a little different yesterday. All we can do is base our program off of what we know at this particular moment, whatever time it is this evening. Our parents have been concerned, I guess, for the most part, about traveling to away games and not knowing what environments we were going to. I think at one of the board meetings, Dan probably brought up, some of the systems we go to were at points in time during this whole thing, I think it was a hot spot or whatever it's called. Houston County is one of them that we're concerned with when we play 2 of their teams. I think we travel one there and one of them we play here. I can't remember the schedule. So a lot of our parents were concerned about how do we travel our kids to away games based on the number of buses that we require. Last year we traveled with 4 buses just for band, based on social distancing and the guidelines. And honestly, I don't even know what the guidelines anymore are for school buses. I really don't. I don't know how many students we're able to put on a bus. I know that that number would increase from probably 4 to at least 6. And it's not just 6 buses, it's 6 bus drivers, which are not standing on every corner. So the parents have basically been in the same mindset as Mr. McGee and some of the other people that, you know, we're fine with not traveling this year. If that's what it helps to get us out of this mess, if that's what it helps to take us get over this threshold, we'll be at home games and we'll go. And I had parents ask me to make sure that it's not a money thing. The board has been extremely generous in supporting this program. It's not about money. The boosters do what we're supposed to do as far as we were supplying meals last year for away games. But again, I don't know how we supply meals. You know, based on how the individual servings are, how to get the water to them, how to get this to them. And we don't know. So, you know, his recommendation is to not travel, and my recommendation is to support my band director and also to work off the advice of what you guys see, because you guys see all the information more so than I do. We're wide open to suggestions on how to take these kids. If we travel, how do we feed them? How do we take care of them? What do we do? You know, we can't take 110 kids into a McDonald's anymore because so many of these places don't offer in-house dining. It's kind of hard to take a bus to a drive-through to get all those orders through the speaker. It's next to impossible. Those are the things that we're working with. We just don't know. So I don't know what else you want to talk about. I can talk on that.
I appreciate it. But again, those are just some of my personal recommendation. You know, it can be superseded. I'm going to be one of those type people. You know, we can work things out and we'll do it. But again, that's my personal recommendation. Any questions from me? Go ahead.
Did you discuss this with Dr. McDaniel?
We talked.
So personally, I feel like this is a day-to-day operation decision. I think we've overstepped the last time with you all personally. And I really feel like this is a day-to-day operation. We're budget policy, so we'll do whatever, but that's just my own opinion.
Pretty much it's your program and your schedule, is what he's saying. Just like a basketball coach makes their schedule and decide, how many home games they're gonna play, and that's your schedule. Right, Doc?
Yeah.
Is
But
that,
y'all need to be aware, I mean, that's a big enough impact on kids, it's a little bit different situation than the average day-to-day operations, and that's, like you said, we've done some things, so I wanna make sure we have this out in the open, and have a discussion, and I'll direct check, have you direct that. Have the board.
Have we contacted, I know we got a schedule and I know I get updated schedules just about every day. As far as, discussing all these things, with those schools that we are going to play about their operations and different things like that. Have we had those conversations with those athletic and band directors?
Yes, when I was doing my reconnaissance, a majority of the people I talked to were in our district, people who were playing, people who we may possibly see, again, I'm going to use this word with, a lot. So, and again, it's fluid. I was checking numbers today and I saw that some were going up in some of those counties that we're playing. I'm like, man, this is crazy. But, again, I'm going to err on the side of safety. That's me. I'm going to err on the side of safety. It made me think about my grandmother who lives in Indiana. And so one of her good friends, he ended up getting COVID and he passed away 4 days after being diagnosed with it. And it's because his grandchild brought it in to him. So he's exposed to his grandchild. And of course, he's 96, but he didn't have any other underlying things. But that's what I look at. So, we're getting out here and we're in the stands and visitor stands, because you know how the visitor stands is. They can be meshed up right next to the band with the way that the stands are operated. And so, it can take an asymptomatic person, because I doubt anyone is going to be doing a thermometer check that there. I know they're not going to be doing what I'm going to be doing when it comes to checking, for when they let people into the games. Like taking a thermometer, you're past a certain temperature, you got to go home. I know that's not going to happen. But for me, I'm going to always err on the side of caution and safety for our kids. That's me and my rationale for everything that I'm doing and my thought process.
So what were you explaining about that this is a little bit more than day-to-day operation? Can you say that again for me?
I said, in this situation with COVID-19 that we've never been through before, I want to make sure this board's aware that we're not traveling, is what I'm hearing. And that's okay, because just like everything else dealing with this pandemic, it's going to be about, 50-50. There's going to be some parents upset that their child's not getting to travel to all the ball games in their senior year.
But there are going to be some bands that are not going to come to us as well. Am I correct?
Ma'am?
There are going to be some bands that won't travel to us as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
For the same reason, because of the logistics of it.
And what my kids were understanding that they may not even have a ball game. That's why they're so thrilled about coming Friday. I said every game that we can have here and any performance that I can give them an opportunity, I'm going to do it if it's at home, because we can control things at home. I'm just one of those. I know what we can do at home and how we can take care of those things. That'll be, again, being able to control those variables at home. I really can't control outside of testing. And I know that's, long reaching and whatnot, but again, that's again, my thought process about issues and things of that nature.
Have you explored the option of doing a smaller, like a pep band opportunity?
Yes, we explored that. I know also it's always one of those things we've talked about having juniors and seniors, maybe doing that, and of course we'll catch it from the juniors, the sophomore and freshman parents. Like, my kid isn't able to, go. Why aren't they? And we talk about seniority things. So that's another animal as well to fight as well. It's another battle, because again, if we do just juniors and seniors, it's smaller numbers. Yeah, we have a little pep band going, but then we get into our auxiliary members and percussionists, and why can't my kids do this, and this is not fair. And so that's the one of the things we get into, is that whole this is not fair issue. So I have visited that You know, if it's something that is vital and everybody get behind, I don't have a problem with it. But again, that now opens up another can of worms that I'm gonna have to put out.
I'm just looking at the schedule, because I'm here again. I hear what you're saying, Mr. McGee, but now that you put the decision in our lap, it goes back to the options that we've given everybody in this whole district to make decisions. And I just want to make sure that we've communicated effectively with all these grandparents that you have of the decisions that we're going to have to make. If this was left to you and the administration, that would be something that the board would be intervening, but now you've given it to us. And so I just want to make sure that we communicated that and everybody understands it, that if we're going to agree with this, that's what we're going to agree. You're asking the board to support.
What about playoff games?
Playoff games, well, hopefully they're at home. I will hope they get home to this with me, but playoff games, we will, again, we can revisit those as well. And this could be one of those things, okay, we got playoffs, school's still in, outbreaks is going down, stuff we can revisit those things.
And you could look at it as something that you evaluate, you know, as time goes on, and in the event that things get better. Yeah. Right, yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's something that we need, if we're going to make a decision on that, I think that's something that we need to visit per game. I know Ms. Nicole has me on as far as coordinating the schedules and lining up security. She sends me an updated spreadsheet of different things that are going on with other schools in our region. She's tracking these things daily of that, and I can forward that to y'all and let y'all see where each school district that's in our region, like we're playing softball and volleyball before they travel. She's tracking the numbers in those counties and making and communicating that with the coaches and all of the AD and the principal. Right. Just say we're just going to blanket not do it. I think we need to follow in suit with what they're doing. I think
could we not get that flexibility like you're saying to the?
She has a good thing going,
right?
Where she's keeping us updated on travel areas, and
right.
I think we can kind of fold into that same thing with this, because this, even though band is not athletics, it participates with athletics and it functions with the football program. So if we can work on that, Dr. McDaniel, Dr. Richardson, with Mr. McGee, and kind of looking at each game by game and say, okay, this week we're going here. This might be a problem. We might can't go to this game. And that way it keeps us out of saying we're going to shut it down altogether, because, again, we've given an opportunity for people to allow their kids to make that choice to participate. And people have committed to that based off of their personal feelings. They had an option to sign up, and people that chose to not sign up knew that they would be taken away. And that's why because I actually thought, I was like, man, the band has gotten smaller, but I understood that parents made decisions that they didn't want. I'm a band parent. I made a decision for my kid to participate in all the summer activities, and he's there now. And I think we have to look at it case by case and game by game, instead of just saying we're going to shut it down totally. That's just my one personal opinion from this board.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, but I also would like to say that I don't want it to where that our band director feels like that he's going to be pressured to do one thing or the other, because ultimately he is responsible for the safety and well-being of these students. Okay, the buck stops there. It is what it is. Okay, so ultimately I feel like that we need to make sure that we don't overstep his authority in making this decision about what he feels is best and safe for his program. But I do agree with giving him the latitude to decide, you know, from one game to evaluate each scenario in each game to make that determination of whether or not he feels like that this is a safe